Right, you want to know how to handle losses, how to deal with losses, but also how to eventually get to the point of being consistently profitable. So there's a good chance that your P&L right now looks something like this, where you've got a bunch of losses in a row and you're panicking, you're not sure what to do, and you feel like you're just doing something wrong all the time. So first things first, you got to zoom out. And the only way to even be able to zoom out is if you have a journal. You need to have a journal. That's number one. If you don't have a journal, then what are you even doing? Because if you have a journal, you can zoom out. And if you zoom out, you'll see that even if you take 13 losses in a row, you only need 5 wins to end up in profit with 2R. So number one thing right off the bat, the majority of traders never even get to the point of having this many losses in a row without switching strategies. The majority of traders at this point would have switched strategies after 6 or 7 losses, switch time frames, switch confluences, switch basically the entire strategy, just switch things up. That's the sad truth, is that this is 99% of traders. They switch strategies after taking 6 losses. I'm 100% sure because I was there too, and the majority of people do that. So that's the first thing. That's probably what you're dealing with. So we're going to break that down. How does that work and where does that come from? So we're going to talk about the human brain basically. The human brain is divided into 3 parts. This is your neocortex, which is basically the human part of the brain, which is responsible for thinking rationally, thinking logically. Then you have your limbic system down here, which is responsible for forming opinions, and your reptile system, basically the flight or fight reactions, the basics. Every animal has this. So we're going to talk about this piece right here, which is the amygdala. And the amygdala is responsible for basically forming opinions or forming thought patterns. So whenever you were a kid and you would burn your hand on the stove, your amygdala would condition itself to know that, okay, I should not touch this stove because it's hot and it burns me. So that ties back into trading, because your entire life, you're getting that association that winning is something good and losing is something bad. Why is that? When you take a test in school and you end up with a bad grade, in the US a D for example, it is marked in bright fat red. So now you associate that D with being bad. You think that it's bad, you lost something, you've got to improve, you've got to make changes and make sure that you end up on the winning side. Then there's plenty of examples like this, and this eventually conditions your amygdala to believe that whenever you take a loss or whenever you do something bad or you lose something, it is bad, and you're going to associate that with bad. Same thing with winning. If you were, for example, playing a soccer match and you won the football or the soccer match, you would be praised for it. You would hear that you're such a good player and keep on doing what you're doing, and that makes you associate winning with good and losing with bad. Now that's really dangerous in trading, because in trading there's no such thing as a bad losing streak or something like that, because it's all about following a proven system. That is an affirmation that I want you to tell yourself all the time. How many of you even have a proven profitable system? I'm not talking about a strategy you got on YouTube or off of Telegram, doesn't matter, but actual data, at least 500 trades of doing the same thing over and over again. And this is really important, the same thing. So not switching it up after 10 trades, but 500 trades of doing the exact same thing over and over again. 99 traders don't have that. So basically 99% of traders shouldn't even be trading on live capital, because you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea if what you're doing actually works. So an affirmation you got to give yourself is trading is following a proven system. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because the only way to disassociate the fact that winning is not good and losing is not bad in trading is by knowing that you have a proven system. You're not going to be able to disassociate these two if you don't know if your system is actually profitable. So we're going to talk about that right now. How many of you even have this? This is honestly one of our members. He's doing this really well, but within a couple of months, he tested over 600 trades. He got a 36% win rate, and he knows that he can lose 12 times in a row and that he wins on average 4 times in a row. Now, this is what tells you how to trade. This is what shows you how to trade profitably, because the only way to disassociate losing with bad is by knowing that in a series of 500 trades, I lost 12 times in a row, but I still ended up with this equity curve right here. And this is an equity curve. If you see this, you'll probably be jealous and you'll be like, I want this. It's pretty easy to achieve. It's not that difficult. The only thing is, as soon as the majority of traders get into a period like this, where it's slight drawdown, or even down here at the bottom, when you get into a slight drawdown, they'll quit and they'll start over. They'll basically go back to zero, and then you have another drawdown period and they'll start over. But instead of sticking to it, their strategy or their equity curve goes something like this. They'll win a little bit, they'll quit, they'll start over, they'll win a little bit, they quit, they start over, and they consecutively go down. You get a really consistent equity curve, just not in the right direction. The key to that, and the key to understanding that and how to handle the losses as well, is by collecting data. And there's no way around that. And that's why the majority of traders aren't profitable. That's why the majority of traders watching this are still not profitable. They have never tested it properly. They maybe tested 100 trades max. They've never done the exact same thing 500 times in a row. Now also, that testing can be quite difficult. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're trading 25 different concepts, let's say you're trading Asian high, but you also need liquidity sweep, you need inducement, you need let's say internal fair value gap, a breaker block. You need all these different concepts in order to test your strategy. Then of course it's going to be really hard to test that strategy properly. So if you have an extremely complex strategy that has a lot of concepts, it's really hard to test it, and it's really hard to find out if your strategy really works in the long run. Of course, if I ask you, test a strategy that has 2 moving averages, a crossover, and that's it. Or if I ask you, test a strategy that has 25 different concepts, needs to be traded with 5 different time frames, multi-time frame analysis, whatever, which one of these is easier to test? Obviously the one with just 2 moving averages. It's as simple as that. But the issue is, like I said, the majority of traders nowadays feel like the only way to improve is by learning more about the charts, and that's just not true. You got to keep a simplistic strategy and then test that strategy at least 500 times to know if it works. Kind of tying me back into the first thing, as soon as you take a few losses, you're going to associate that with being bad, and you're going to want to get rid of those losses. And you feel like the way to avoid those losses is by learning more about the charts, is by learning more about the way liquidity works and inducement and stuff like that. And then there's endless providers on YouTube who are going to teach you the magic of the markets and teach you exactly how the markets move. But then after a few years, you're even more confused than when you first started, because that's ultimately what leads you into this infinite cycle of continuously making mistakes. Because you always feel like whenever there's something going wrong, you've got to learn more about the charts and the way the markets move. That's not the way it is. That's why it's so incredibly difficult. You got to keep it simple. You got to test it thoroughly. And once you've tested it thoroughly, only then can you decide if something works. Tying me into what you see up here. Even if you have a profitable system, it is okay to take a few losing months. You're not going to avoid that. You're never going to get rid of that. Anyone who tells you that you're going to avoid losing months, impossible. Every single profitable strategy out there has at least 1 or 2 losing months in a year. That's just the way it is, honestly. And if you don't believe in that, then by all means go and look for the Holy Grail, but you're never going to find it. This is literally just the way trading works. So to summarize it, you need to know that what you're doing works. The only way to know if it works is by testing it. The only way to test it is by keeping it simple, because if it's too hard to test, then you're obviously never going to be able to collect data. It's almost never the key to try and learn more about SMC concepts or ICT concept. That's never really the key. The key is to consistently test something simple. Also, a fun fact, the current world record holder for the Robbins Cup, Larry Williams, traded an extremely simple strategy. Literally a couple of moving averages, a couple of indicators. He traded something extremely simple, and he was way more profitable than any of us in here on this YouTube space. But he traded something extremely simple, and the sad truth is that a lot of people now analyze every little move in the market but are nowhere close to being profitable. So with that said, basically the video was a little bit of me ranting about it too, but this is the way to deal with losses. This is how to deal with losses. This is how to understand how to trade profitably in the long run. So with that said, thanks you guys for watching this video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.